Are we broadcasting now?
Let me just check with Rogers. I would say we are, but just let me.
Well, I'll start as though we are, and they can catch up with me. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wednesday, April 7th, 2021 regular meeting of Midland Council, being at 7 o'clock in the evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting is being broadcast through Rogers Cable TV on channel 53. And if you're not able to see it in live stream or being broadcast, it is available on the Midland YouTube channel to watch at a later date. I'll ask councillors if they have any declarations of conflict of interest with respect to tonight's meeting. Seeing none, Councillor McGinn, I think, is in transit and will likely catch up with us a bit further on the proceedings. I'd like to, at this point, acknowledge that the town of Midland recognizes it's located on land which is the traditional and treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people, now known as the Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation. This territory is within the Pre-Confederation Treaty 5 and Treaty 16, and included within Williams Treaties of 1923. The town of Midland recognizes that it is located on land which is the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the historic homelands of the Métis, and that our town is home to a large and diverse community of Indigenous peoples. I think I'd like to ask us to pause for a moment of silent reflection, and again, just to think about those people who have succumbed to the new variants, as well as just generally to COVID-19, and wish them all well in terms of recovery, and condolences to the families of those who have not made it through. So we just pause for a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you very much. First motion I have before me is moved by Deputy Mayor Ross, seconded by Councillor Prost, that the contents of the regular council agenda for April 7th, 2021 be approved. Any comments or questions from council on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. That carries. The next item I have is moved by Councillor Olszewski. Seconded by Councillor Main, that the items and relating recommendations contained within the April 7th, 2021 consent agenda as consent items having been considered by council be adopted. Comments or questions from councillors on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Main, didn't see your yellow card.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, there's just a couple of items on the consent agenda. Fully support that. Very appreciative of the tax arrears report. I think we were all really worried that the tax arrears was going to explode last year, but very fortunate that people have been able to pay their municipal taxes, and that appreciate all the hard work with staff being very sensitive and delicate around such a sensitive topic. So thank you for the hard work on that. Again, fully supportive of the Habitat Humanity DC exemption request. Unfortunately, if you notice in the report, we're not waiving building permit fees, but we have established a development charge fund to be able to help towards affordable housing projects like this. And so we're very supportive of Habitat Humanity, having donated the land, having supported their rezoning. And speaking of zoning, again, the draft plan for the Sunrise Pier, nothing really has changed. So usually I'm not a big fan of promoting extending draft plans, but because this is a very well-contained unit, it's basically a carbon copy of the first tower for the second tower. And then again, appreciation for staff on the community relief measures. Appreciate them taking the time to look into different things that we can do to help soften the blow. Unfortunately, the really only tool that we have is deferment, and unfortunately, we can't keep deferring. And then also, while I have the hot mic here, I just want to plug the wastewater department. Again, awesome report, a great year for the town of Midland. Huge kudos to Andre, Chuck, and all the crew. I know we did have still a couple of overflow incidents, but it's really glossed over. But so much work has gone into Chamber A, that old antiquated piece of infrastructure. But they tuned it up, they fixed it up, and we're plugging away at our combined sewers with our reconstruction. So again, all the hard work by staff is not unappreciated. Great work again on the. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Main. I think I see Councillor Cunningham hesitantly putting your card up. Councillor Cunningham.
Yes, thank you. Just looking at the tax arrears report, also very pleased to see such a small change in spite of COVID. The one question I did have that I wasn't clear on is, it mentions that typically once a property falls into 3 years of tax arrears, it's eligible for registration of tax arrears certificate that starts the process whereby property owner is notified they have 1 year to remit all taxes, interest, penalties. Because we have looked at 2020 with our taxation challenges and we were waiving all penalties and interest, is that a year that does not count in this tax arrears deadline of 3 years?
Mr. Jeremy, would you like to? Mr. Jeremy.
Councillor Cunningham, through your worship, no, 2020 does count. During that time, there was a pause put on adding new properties to the for potential tax sale. That was done by the province. And in fact, council had passed a motion that directed staff to continue that until the end of 1Q 2021. So yes, to answer your original question, 2020 does still count towards those dates.
Mr. Jeremy, does that satisfy your question, Councillor?
Yes, just wanted to make sure we're very clear on it. You don't want assumptions standing in the way.
Cool. Thank you. Any further questions to read the consent agenda or comments? Councillor May.
Yeah, I just had a question for staff on the wastewater report. I'm not sure if Mr. Pepin or Mr. Campbell can answer it. It was basically, I really like when you kind of look back at the different years of trends. I was just looking at the COBD chart, and I was just curious if what we've seen over the last couple of years with our infrastructure, if because of our combined sewer efforts to separate sewers, if we're seeing, one, less rainwater make it to the plant, and two, if that's showing up in the data with the increased or decreased COBD levels at the plant. I was just curious, I know there's excitement about King Street and how much rainwater is going to be diverted from going into our sanitary sewer system. I'm just curious if those numbers have been tracked and are starting to show up in our annual reports. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell.
Through your worship to Councillor Main, that trend change in the biological oxygen demand is really based on the improvements that were made when Mr. Fitty joined the organization and worked with staff to improve operational processes. So that's why 2017 is that break line on that graph, and that just has to be when Chuck started here, and bringing new ideas and some new approaches to how we manage operations. So kudos out to Chuck and to Andre and the staff who took the opportunity to reevaluate how we do run our plants and improve upon them. So that's really what that break line is. And we were starting to run out of control prior to that operational change that we did. Your comment on combined sewers, we'll see, really a change depending what the weather's like this year on the combined, because Hugo was repaired 2 years ago. We've got King Street repaired. So those were two major inputs of stormwater into our system. We also did a fix over in Bayport in the last couple of years. So I think this next year, or this current year that we'll report on this time next year, we'll really get to see if there's some major reductions. We believe from King Street there'll be some significant reductions, but we didn't really finish that construction till the fall of last year. So we've got to get through this summer to see what it looks like, but very promising. Anecdotally, some of the numbers we think we're going to see are significant, maybe 1 million gallons a day of rainwater being reduced out of the system, which is huge.
Oh, and just a quick follow up on that. Great efforts on the infiltration and inflow study. Is that a separate report that we're going to be seeing, or is that just an internal document that just works on continuous improvement of the plant? Thank you.
Mr. Campbell.
Through your worship, we haven't planned on a report, but certainly we can work on it. That's Mr. Pepin's, one of his major projects, and he started to talk about it in the report, is this SLRAT, the sewer rat technology that we're using to evaluate pipes. Andre's been putting together a work plan, and he's already gone through some parts of town trying to evaluate where there's damage in our pipes to instead of having to put a camera down every pipe, which takes time to do, and you have to clean the pipe before the camera goes in. This is an audio unit that goes in. It just uses sound waves to check for defects. Huge technology, something Andre found out talking with vendors and other municipalities, and it's in our benchmark testing, it's bang on accurate, and it's going to reduce some of our inspection costs hugely. So again, kudos to Andre and the crew, and it's always tough to pat ourselves on the back and write a report, but we'll do that later this year.
Well, thanks for all your hard work. Thank you.
I look forward to you patting on your back. You deserve it. Yeah. And for those diehard folks who are really interested in why their water rates have gone up, there's a water financial plan covering the next 10 years. If I'm not mistaken, we're putting in something on the order of $30 million in new infrastructure and repairs. So that sort of gives you an idea why your rates are what they are. And bear in mind when you're reading it that the province has passed regulations which say that the rates support water, not the levy. So your taxes don't support it. It's a user pay system. It's interesting read. It's a bit heavy at times, but it certainly tell you why they're going the way they're going and what needs to be done. So I recommend it when you're having your morning coffee, not when you're sitting there trying to stay awake in the evening. So with that, if there are no more comments on this item, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Thank you, and that carries. With that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Downer and seconded by Councillor Gordon, the council resolve in the committee of the whole. I'll ask all those in favor of the motion. Thank you, that carries as well. So I'll hand it over to Deputy Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Your Worship. How's everyone tonight? Beautiful day. Welcome to the committee of the whole. First up, we have a public meeting, and it's proposed bylaw to increase building permit fees. This public meeting is being held in accordance with Section 7 of the Building Code Act 1992, SO 1992, C23, to allow the public the opportunity to provide comments regarding proposed building permit fee increases. Madam Clerk, can you please confirm notification and any correspondence received regarding the proposed building permit fee increase? Madam Clerk?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, notice of the public meeting was published in the Midland Mirror on March 4th and April 1st. And also on the town's website, Engaging Midland webpage, and on social media. One piece of correspondence was received from a resident, and it has been linked to this evening's published agenda for the public's information.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. As you're aware, this meeting this evening is being held virtually. As a result, there will be members of the public. As a result, there will be members of the public participating via telephone. We ask that those of you that wish to provide comment to call now to be placed in the queue. The number to call is 705-526-4275, extension 2208. As we can only permit one caller at a time to participate, should your call not be answered right away, please call back once the current caller has finished providing their comments. As a reminder, this meeting is to receive comments from the public. Council may ask questions for clarification, but not engage in the debate. Madam Clerk, is there any callers?
No callers at this time.
All right, I will allow it the opportunity for them to call in.
Sure.
I would like to remind anybody calling in that they have 5 minutes to speak and to please state their name and address when they begin. So if we, it's 7:16, maybe we'll give to 7:20 to see if we have any callers at this point, if that's fine with council or committee. Now, Madam Clerk, maybe you could clarify the correspondence that we received will be shared with staff and come back at a later time after this public meeting. Is that correct?
The correspondence that was received is already published on the agenda. Are you referring to any
Yes.
comments that are made this evening?
Yeah, any comments that may come in, but I wanted to make sure the correspondence has gone to staff, so it's already published. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, it's published. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, I just wanted to make you aware as well that the number is posted or is being displayed on Rogers TV
Wonderful.
as well. So I'm not sure if you want to give until 7:20 or if you wanted to just give another minute or so and
No,
then
we'll
move
give
on.
we'll give the 7:20. I think it's fair to allow any public the opportunity. Once again, if anyone's interested
Sure.
to call, the number is 705-526-4275, extension 2208. This is regards to the public meeting with regards to building permit fee increase. Once again, if anyone would like to call in with regards to the public meeting, with regards to increased building permit fees, the number is 705-526-4275, extension 2208. We're going to allow another couple minutes and then we'll close this public meeting. Is this committee fine with closing this public meeting, or would you like to allow a few more minutes? I'm seeing nodded heads. Being that there's no comments, we would like to thank everyone for their attendance and participation. Council will consider the appropriate bylaw authorizing the proposed building permit fee increase at the April 21st meeting of council. Thank you to all. So that closes our public meeting. Next up, we have presentations and we have two award of merits, and I'm going to turn the honor over to Mayor Strathern. Mayor Strathern.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This is one of those fun things that the mayor gets to do and council gets to do each year, as to recognize contributions by individuals within the community to the community. Tonight we have 2 recipients. First being Miss Margaret Murray. And Miss Murray was born October 18th, well, we won't say when, in Bishops Falls, Newfoundland. In 1965, rather, she, along with her husband and 2 young children, Thomas and Patsy, moved to Midland so her husband could work at the new RCA plant. The family initially resided on William Street, but 2 years later moved into a newly built home in Sunnyside, where Margaret continues to live today. Margaret's early days were spent caring for her children and family. As the children grew older, she accepted a position at the Martyrs Shrine, where she worked for 10 years. When the town of Midland was in need of a school crossing guard to ensure the safety of students and parents crossing the busy Yonge and Russell Street intersection, Margaret eagerly took on this very important role. In 2009, it was determined that Margaret's assistance was required at the Howard Street Petatangwisheen Road intersection to ensure the safe crossing of children, parents, and staff of Monsignor Castick School. Margaret accepted this redeployment without question. Margaret has held the position of school crossing guard for more than 30 years and takes great pride in this role, rarely, if ever, missing a day. This continues to be an amazing accomplishment on its own, as Margaret never drove, but was able to get herself to work every day despite the weather, and a lot of times just walking to school. I mean, she would get to school before the kids. I had trouble getting to school before it closed. So I find it amazing. And we all know that maneuvering on foot through heavy snow and stormy conditions during the winter months in Midland can be quite challenging, even for the most avid walker. Margaret loves attending service at St. Margaret's Church and has served as a volunteer with the Midland Horticultural Society. Today, it's with great pleasure and appreciation that we as council honor Margaret Murray with the Town of Midland Award of Merit. Congratulations, Margaret. Thank you very, very much for keeping us all safe. We weren't paying attention crossing.
Here.
Thank you.
Let's say a few words, Margaret.
I appreciate and graciously accept the honor of receiving this Midland Award of Merit. Thank you.
You're welcome.
David.
Thank you very much. I've got a copy. I've got it here.
Yes.
I'm sure the clerk will reach out to you and make arrangements to come down, and we'll see. We'll get the communications officer, get your picture with the award, and make sure it gets up on our website. And once again, thank you very, very much for all those years of dedicated service. Very, very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Who remembers Elmer the safety elephant? Does anybody here remember Elmer the safety elephant, or am I really aging myself? Councillor Downer. Councillor Shefsky. No.
Okay, it's right there with Peter Puck.
Yeah, there we are. I think I'll let this go. So we have another recipient this evening. Our second Award of Merit recipient is Mr. Burke Penny. He's a well-known, respected researcher and known in Midland for his tenacious and meticulous attention to detail. Raised in Hamilton, Burke obtained a bachelor's degree in anthropology at McMaster University, followed by a master's degree at the University of Manitoba. He came to the region to deploy his skills in archaeology, participating in historical digs at the naval and military establishment, now known as Discovery Harbor. Following his tenure with the naval establishment, Burke served as a consultant for museums and historical organizations across the province. He also authored a highly regarded book that details the story of the Royal Canadian Signal Corps involvement in the Pacific Theater in World War II, titled Beyond the Call. While his distinguished career is worth celebrating, it is his contributions to the town of Midland that we recognize this evening. As a resident of Midland, Burke has dedicated countless hours to assisting the town with many initiatives, including the development of the master plans and participation on committees such as the Untitled Waterfront Master Plan Committee, where he helped facilitate numerous public consultations and design meetings. He continued his involvement on the Midland Bay Landing Project Steering Committee and helped support the establishment of the Midland Bay Landing Development Corporation. When the town turned its focus towards King Street rejuvenation, Burke redirected his attention to the often neglected laneways. Burke realized the incredible opportunity the laneways presented and worked with the town, community, and business representatives to develop the Love Your Laneway Action Committee, otherwise known as LILAC. The committee generated custom designs for businesses and laneway access and created a plan for long overdue improvements to the laneways and adjacent parking lots. Burke dedicated hundreds of volunteer hours to coordination of the project, partnered with urban designers, and worked collaboratively with the town. While some laneway ideas have been delayed due to the pandemic, it has given the town and the community the rare opportunity to catch up with Burke. That's no easy task. It's with great pleasure and appreciation that we, as council, on behalf of the residents of Midland, present the Award of Merit to Burke Penny for his contributions to the community. Congratulations, Burke. Hoping you're on this evening. I don't see Burke here. Madam Clerk, is he with us this evening?
There. I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Would you like to say a few words, Burke?
Well, I'm just delighted with this award and humbled. But I just got a note from Sherry. I have to start my video. Okay. Is that working now? There we go.
There we are.
I'm new to this technology. So I really have to thank the mayor and council for approving the project in the first place when I brought it to your worship and said, I've got this idea of how we could improve the laneways to fit in with the reconstruction of King Street. And he was very supportive, and so were some senior members of the staff, Andy Campbell and former planning director Wes Crown, and ultimately it came to council, and you approved it. So without that kind of support, the project wouldn't have even got off the ground. So I'm very thankful for that. Certainly the committee that I work with, other volunteers from the community, were just great, and we couldn't have done it without their input and their help. And I should mention the two planning students that we had from Fanshawe College, from the planning department there, Martin and Mackenzie. They were just great. They brought all that expertise they've been learning in their program, which really allowed the project to move ahead on these specific design elements for the different businesses, and in the production of the proposal to the town for doing other things with the laneways. So I thank all of you for your support in this, and because it's that old saying, but we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you very much. It's an honor to receive this award, and I'll keep working on these laneways. Thank you.
I hadn't noticed that you stopped working on it, actually.
Yeah.
Sending in suggestions. We actually have an application in for financing to continue that great work. Hopefully the people who prove those things are listening and recognize the opportunity, and we'll be getting you back at it in short order once this pandemic nonsense is done.
I look forward to it.
As I said earlier, I have the award here in the chambers, and I believe the clerk will get a hold of you, and we'll get you Randy Fee here to get some pictures of you with the award and on our website. Again, thank you wholeheartedly for all the work you do.
Thank you, Council.
With that, Deputy Mayor, sorry, Councillor Gordon.
Over that, I lost my mouse, couldn't find my unmute. Mr. Penny, I just have to tell you that you and the other group of volunteers that you put together this really awesome project. Really happy to support it. I'm really glad it came to council, and I just wanted to say that volunteerism is truly alive and well in Midland, and it's a real inspiration. It's something that doesn't seem to resonate as much with the younger generation these days. I mean, I know I'm tarring everyone with the same brush, but there's a lot of volunteerism, but that spirit to go and do things seems to be a dwindling set of our society in general. So you're a real inspiration. I appreciate that. I know there's lots of young people out there that take up the challenge and spearhead things too. And I'm hoping that we'll continue to be able to fund and keep this momentum going. So I appreciate everything you've done for our King Street and the residents and the businesses down there. They really have benefited from it and will continue to.
Through your worship, thank you, Councillor Gordon. I know there are lots of people like me in this community that have skills and experience and good ideas. And any time that council can involve people in what's going on in the community, I think everyone benefits. So it was great to have the opportunity.
You're here. Thank you again. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back to Deputy Mayor Ross. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and congratulations to Miss Murray and Mr. Penny. Always a pleasure, and thank you so much for all you do for the town of Midland. Congratulations from all the council. Next up, we have deputation. First on the deputants are the 2021 budget reconsideration for reduction of tax increase. We have Ms. Teets, Mr. Majors, and Mr. Lundy to address council. I will let you know you have 10 minutes. I will give you the 2-minute warning when you get to 8 minutes. And please stick around. I'm sure we'll have some questions and for you after your presentation. Thank you very much for coming this evening, and I'll turn it over. Do we have them here today? I don't see their names up. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I do see Mr. Lundy is present. And I'm just looking. I don't actually see Ms. Teets or Mr. Major on the call at the moment.
Yeah, I'm here.
They're together.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there we go.
It's a threefer.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
If you
All
could
right,
move
I'll be
your
able to
computer
watch
down a tiny bit, we're having a hard time seeing everybody. If that'd be great. The camera. Mr. Major?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Okay.
All right. It's all
I'll be
yours.
on Scott Street.
I'll remind you that you have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll give you the 8-minute warning, and please stick around. I'm sure we'll have some questions and or comments for you after. Thank you very
Okay.
much for coming this evening. It's all yours.
Okay. So we're here. We had a petition signed, so the three of us are kind of representing everyone on the petition. We're going to request a motion for council to get the staff to go over the budget. And right off the hop, I'll give you a hockey analogy. Andy Campbell could be a healthy scratch because we don't need Andy to tell us that if we get to 0%, he's not going to plow the roads or sand them or anything like that. Like we're not after operations. We just want to see if there's other ways we can get it down for the people of Midland. I think $1 million, if we can find $1 million in savings, we should be able to do it. And I think if the staff at the town's having a hard time, there's enough small businesses, seniors on a fixed income, and young families with kids that could go on Zoom and go line by line on the budget and help the town get us down to 0%. So in Barrie, they got 0.92%, Aurelia 0%, Collingwood 0%, Midland 2.5%. We've already got so far, I think the mayor applied for it for the gas tax funds. So I think the town of Midland's got $534,844 the first time. The second time, $514,161 for a total of $1,049,005. For the pandemic, the provincial government has given us $309,953. The mayor and deputy mayor have already said we're the highest tax and lowest income around Simcoe County. So it just, with the pandemic, I've talked to enough small businesses, families, seniors on the fixed income, and it's just the wrong time to raise our taxes. And the other thing that's going on, I understand the town, if they hire to replace someone that retired or left, but to hire new people during a pandemic, I don't understand that when there's so many people in this town losing their jobs or are under less hours. I don't understand how it got up to 2.5%.
Today we heard from Premier Doug Ford that he just initiated a stay-at-home order. So this is actually, in fact, going to hurt a lot more people. There's going to be businesses that will be closing, and the closing of those businesses will instill the fact that people will be losing their jobs as well. Now, this is actually for 4 weeks, but last year we saw the same thing continue. So this is putting a burden on those people as well. So we are asking that council and the staff, so council councils create a motion so that we can have staff revisit the budget and find savings to have a zero tax increase. The budget just, it would really, really help if you could actually find the courage and compassion to lower our tax rate to zero and reach out to help the residents of this town and the constituents of Midland. We would respectfully remind you that back in 2018, both when everybody did run for election, that the majority of your promises were to keep taxes at inflation or below inflation. Inflation today is 1.27%. So in fact, if we are looking at 2.5%, that is double the inflation. So we respectfully ask that you reconsider the promises that you gave to your constituents and you back them accordingly. We would just like to make sure that we are there for the residents of this town. One of the other things that we found was that there was a committee that both Mayor Strathern and Jonathan Main have been on. Back on January the 20th, they presented to council a business case for the building more attainable housing. And in that interim document, it was mentioned that Midland has one of the highest percentages of low-income households in Simcoe County. 53% of the households have annual incomes of $60,000 or less. Midland is one of the more impoverished areas of the county. In 2020, Canada was impacted by COVID-19. The virus has affected all parts of Canadian society and the economy. While there is little data available on how it's affected housing, it has clearly destroyed many low-paying jobs, forcing people to rely upon government programs. This will undoubtedly seriously affect the ability of many households to cover their costs of living. COVID-19 has likely compounded the problems we face in providing affordable housing. So 1 month later, they came back and did the budget and voted on a 2.5% increase. So we kind of wonder that this may be a contradicting ideal with their roles on committee and council, or was it just simply a strategy to get funding for the committee and let residents continue to pay high taxes? So we really just are looking for anything to help out residents in the town, especially the fact that we are the highest tax in amongst 7 in the county of Simcoe. So please, we ask for a motion to bring this forward and have staff look at this and revisit so that we can really help the residents during this global pandemic. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better, as Premier Doug Ford mentioned today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Would that be all, Ms. Teets?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
we can take some questions.
Yes, any questions or comments with regards to this deputation? I see Councillor Main.
Oh, thank you so much. I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. I think poverty in our community is so real. And I think that that's a very good point. I think we acknowledge that, and that's a real struggle that we have, knowing that as the municipal government, we have limited tools to address poverty. And so that's a whole issue unto itself. And I certainly wholeheartedly agree with you. I think everyone agrees poverty is very real in our community. I just wanted to add a question for you. When we're reviewing the budget and the capital budget specifically, staff was saying that they had it at 20 million and we got it down to 8 million, and that 12 million works was basically deferred to next year. And so if you look at the 10-year capital plan, next year's looking like it's going to be maybe about 30 million, the year after that 20, the year after that 20, and so on and so forth. I guess the question is, for the deputants, I know that you guys are not supportive of the 2.5%, but when you talk about long-term capital planning and that we're behind by millions and millions of dollars, and I know you want to get to zero this year, that may mean that we might have to have significant tax increases in later years, maybe 5% or higher, or tax hikes, as we were saying. So any comment on that about looking at the long-term picture or the long-term capital plan, or how that affects?
Deputant?
Thank you.
Deputant, do you have a response?
In 2018, it was 1.2%.
In 2018, we had a decrease of 1.2%.
And in 2019, 1.44%. 2020, 1.23%. Then the pandemic hit, and you're at 2.5%. And like, I understand, John, you're well educated and well spoken, but you didn't tell us anything. Like, I understand you can't run a place on 0%. I get that, but 2.5% is in a pandemic when every other year you've been at 1%. So I don't understand that part of it. Like, how come the other years they could get it down to a 0.12, 1.44, 1.29, and this year is the worst year. You're in the middle of a pandemic and you hit 2.50.
And what we're facing right now is we are the cost of inflation is 1.27%. Currently, 2.5 is double the inflation rate. Now, we would like to remind you that the town will be receiving a total of $1,049 from federal government, plus an additional $309,000. We believe that the town, the equivalent of less than 1 million to reduce 2.5% increase to zero in capital or operation spending can be achieved without impacting any of the core services at all. And it would just help residents cope during the global pandemic.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Prost? You're muted.
You're muted.
You're Councillor Prost.
Okay, is that okay? Okay, so what I'm hearing is this 1.3 plus million that the town will receive. Are you requesting a motion to maybe do some fancy accounting to incorporate that and use that money to bring taxes down to zero?
However likely that the taxes need to be to zero, and using those funds would be great. We don't know right now where those funds are going to be placed, but it would be nice to know. The 1 million is the one-time doubling of tax, gas tax funds, and the other one is the COVID relief of 300,000.
And the COVID, the 300,000 is from the provincial government, the 1 point some million from the federal government that the mayor put a thing in to get, and he got it. So
we're just wondering if there's any way that they can take that money and reduce, you know, the taxes somewhat. We don't know if there's a way to fancy the book somehow, but 1.3 million, and we believe that we need that much in order to get to zero.
I think the mayor wants to talk.
Your worship, you had a question?
Well, I just wanted to answer the question that's been posed. As my understanding is the federal gas tax money is earmarked for specific items and cannot be used for anything other than those items. That's the first thing. That's the 1 point. I didn't get the actual number written down, but you have it there, so you know what it is.
$1,049,005.
Right. So any of the funding that we have received from either the province or from the feds is earmarked for specific spending allocations only. So for example,
are they?
Well, pardon me?
What are the?
So as for the gas tax money has to be spent on infrastructure, period, the end. So it either goes into reserve, and when you do a capital works project, that's where you spend the money. And that's the only place you can spend the money. Other monies that we received, for example, from the Minister of Transport, I believe it was OSIP, I beg your pardon, for transportation, went into 2 community reach buses, replacement of a bus that was at well beyond service life, transit infrastructure, shelters, and scheduling software and dispatch software. And that was very specific funding money. Other monies that we get, which I don't think you've accounted for in your factoring, are things like Safe Restart money. In fact, the federal government just announced another 800 million today in Safe Restart money. And those funds you apply for, and you have to account for every penny that you actually draw down from them as COVID expenses in the operations of the corporation of the town. So the fact that I have before me here 376 pages of a budget document that were available for 2 weeks. The actual intention to the framing of the budget process was put out in August of last year. There was a survey run amongst the residents for the better part of, I'm going to say 2 to 3 months, which they could participate and answer questions about how they felt about the budget process. And on top of all of that, there was 3 days of deliberations in which there were at most 3 motions brought forward to this council about trimming the budget. There was lots of conversation and lots of, well, geez, what's this and what's that? We went line by line by line by line. And nobody, and the process, it's just for your edification, is if you want to make a change, you put a motion forward. We had 3, I can remember 2 of them. One was to freeze rates, fees, which would have increased the levy. And the second was, oh shoot, no, I don't remember. But neither one of them had a significant material impact on the budget. Oh, I remember what it was, to remove community grants. And at the end of the day, It was so late in the process, it was felt to be inappropriate for those organizations for $100,000 to put the work in, to take that money away. When you actually look at this budget document, the first 40 some odd pages set the context as to why the budget is the way it is. This council spent 3 long, hard days going through that, and frankly, 2 weeks prior to that, trying to figure out. And at one point, you know, we were pretty tired, but we continued to plow through it looking for savings. And we found savings, but it ended up at 2.5% blended. What's the reason? Well, 1.71% of that budget is fixed costs. So our insurance went up on the order of, I'm guessing, around 30 to 40%. I know at the county, it was almost 50%. That's insurance. Our insurance is going up because we're getting more and more lawsuits because of joint and several liability. The next thing that is on that is a 0.77% increase solely to pay the debt on King Street. So right now we're talking almost 2.48% increase in the levy. Obligatory payments. And we did agencies and boards. Well, that was fairly negligible. And because we said no to a position in one instance, and the boards basically were able to hold the line. We could just say, okay, we're not running, you know, this group and that group, you know, the library board or the Middle Bay Landing Board. We could have said the library curtail your budget. We didn't do that because the library is providing a service. And in fact, council was given some choices. You could change the budget by reducing service levels, cutting programs, or cutting staff. That never came up. And for good reason. You've attributed to me, or to the statement, that Midland and the deputy mayor, that Midland is in the highest taxed, lowest income bracket. That is a result of a KPMG study done in, I think it was 2012. And there's no disputing that. And there's no disputing the facts that are in the housing preliminary brief that went forward to council for approval. And no, it wasn't a chimera. And yes, there are people couch surfing, and there are projects that have been applied for, and we're trying very hard to deal with that. Housing is identified as one of 3 critical factors in community safety planning. So I would just say to you that I'm a taxpayer just like you are. I don't like paying any more taxes than I have to, believe me. I'm on a fixed income. I'm 70 years old.
I will ask you to wrap it up, please, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So I'll just leave it at that there was a lot of consideration given to this. The funds that you're speaking of are actually earmarked funds. And so I would just like people to understand that you don't quite have your facts straight on that and a number of
Okay, then let me ask you this question.
Mr. Major, you had a response?
Yeah, I'm just a common guy. You guys seem to reach out to other communities. So when you're doing your budget, why wouldn't you reach out to Barrie, Aurelia, or Collingwood and see what they did? Like you can tell me political speak all you want. I'm a street person. I understand street, like working, and you can go off all you want about what you did, what you're going to cut this, you're going to cut that, but it's all political talk to me. To me,
well,
I want to know
you should raise your game a bit.
why you didn't go to the other cities and ask them for help.
One of the things we want to let you understand as well is the Ontario provides additional support for municipalities during COVID-19. That 309,000 said specifically that the new financial relief will help ensure the delivery of critical services and keep capital projects on track. So that is the money that we can use towards capital projects. I did my homework, and that $1 million that we're getting, that can also be applied in the same way, because that's what that basically said.
If you don't mind, I see a question. I'll have Mr. Deneau, our CEO, answer if that's fine.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and again, thank you for the input. And I do agree with certainly the comments made by the mayor. You know, there was a great deal of analysis done by our finance team and our entire management team. This process involved everybody in the organization, which I think was a little bit different than the past. So I think the accuracy of it is perhaps unparalleled in the history. What you also saw in this budget was a 10-year horizon on where you stand with your reserve capacity and your capital expenditure that's coming at you, which is, you know, again, I think instructive when you need to make decisions about what you're doing today, because there are some bills that will need to be paid, you know, coming down the future. This council could have gone to reserves to cover a tax levy increase. But the reserve capacity is not there to support this community in the near future. We just don't have that reserve capacity. Why do we not have that reserve capacity? You can look at some staff reports that show to the amount of funding that this community has received over the last 10 to 12 years, and it is very small in comparison to all those communities that you named in comparison. We also don't have the growth. When you look at communities like Orillia and Barrie, they have a tremendous amount of growth, which helps their tax base. We don't have that. We don't have that luxury. We have to grow our way out of this situation. And to grow our way out of this situation, we can't just want it to happen. We have to make it happen. And in order to do that, we have to do some reasonable investment. And that's what this 1.77 was. It was a reasonable investment to continue to allow this community to get on the right track, to allow us to use what reserve capacity we have to reinforce those assets that are coming at us. And the funds that we're getting from the government for COVID relief, as the mayor indicated, you see the announcement and you see the amounts. They come with very, very specific guidelines on how you can achieve that number. And it takes a great amount of work by our finance team to do that, but they do it. And we try and get every penny of that money. But it is only for this year and only for very specific purposes. We have to build a budget that's sustainable year in and year out. We can either kick the can down the road and let another council deal with it. This council did not do that, so I commend them for that. We can also kick this down the road and have, you know, double-digit increases come at our taxpayers. This council did not agree to do that. Those were the tough decisions. Those were the ones that were very difficult for this council over 3 days of deliberation to determine. And those were the facts they dealt with. And it pained every one of these councillors to make that decision, but I think they understand it was realistic. And it's the only way we can get to a more reasonable tax rate in Midland. We have to grow this community.
So I have one
Thank you, Mr. Deneau. I'll turn it over to Councillor Chesky. You had a question or a comment?
Councillor Prost was ahead of me.
Councillor Prost?
Okay, I'm not disputing the budget, it's done, it's passed. But what people are seeing is the town is just receiving a little over $1.3 million. So does that not, I know it's for specific uses, but we already have a budget for specific uses. So is this like a bonus? Are we getting extra parks? Or how is this going to work?
Mr. Deneau, you care to answer, or would Mr. Jeremy?
I'll defer to Mr. Jeremy, thank you.
Mr. Jeremy, do you understand the question?
Yes, I believe I do.
Thank you.
So Councillor Prost through Deputy Mayor Ross, if we take federal gas tax as an example, yes, we will get a one-time doubling up on our federal gas tax funds, which wasn't contemplated in our budget document. However, those federal gas tax funds, they need to be used for capital purposes. And because they're being used for capital purposes, that capital budget is not funded directly from the tax levy. It's funded from reserves. So by accessing that $1 million, unfortunately, it doesn't actually do anything for our tax levy. And as a result, it doesn't do anything for our tax rate today. Down the line, it may mean that there may be things that we don't have to pay for from our tax levy through reserve contributions that we would otherwise have to. But that's not the situation for us today. Today, those funds can only be used for capital and they do not affect our tax levy, which means they do not affect our tax rates.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jeremy. Does that answer your question, Councillor Prost?
Well, here's
Thank you. Councillor Olszewski, you have a question?
I think Mr. Major, I think had a final comment and I'll.
Oh, Mr. Majors,
I'll
I
give him-
apologize. I didn't hear that. Do you have a comment with regards to Mr. Jeremy's?
No, just back to the budget, because I talked to Mr. Deneau, and when we read the budget, it looked like he was getting an $80,000 raise. So I got people texting me, phoning me, what's going on? Why is the new COA getting a raise? So I reached out to Mr. Deneau. He kind of explained to me, well, that's not the way it is. And I probably wasn't well educated enough to read a budget. And then we had that council meeting where people could call in, and the first call in was a university educated high school teacher that asked Mr. Deneau the same question I did. So like they can say the staff and everything did everything they could on the budget, but there's too much in Midland. There's too many small businesses. There's too many seniors and too many families that aren't happy with this 2.5%. And you can tell me all you want with your political speak about kicking it down the road for years to come or whatever. Years to come will be different than this year in a pandemic. That's the part I don't understand.
One of the other things,
Thank you.
Doug Ford came up today and told us that he has made an Ontario-wide stay-at-home order effective tomorrow at 12:01 a.m. If that's the fact, then we have 6 postings out on the midland.ca job opportunity website. Those jobs, will they not be impacted because it's a stay-at-home order? Why would we hire when we've got a stay-at-home order? And we know last year with the stay-at-home orders, it was extended. So we're over expending ourselves. Now, if we cut those jobs would actually impact the tax increase. That could be reduced. We could take that money that would be spent, and we are going to have budget deliberations again in the 2022 budget deliberations again in December, which is only a few months away. So either pausing a hiring because the office, I'm sure the office is going to be closed because it is a stay-at-home order. So everybody in the town of Midland will either be staying at home or they will be working from home. How are we supposed to have new people come in, and we can save that money and apply that to the budget, thus lowering the tax, and then hire in the new year when we can see if there has been a change? The economy has not changed. We are still in a pandemic. We don't have, it's just a very bad situation. So hiring people doesn't make sense, and we can take those funds and lower the budget and lower our taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Deneau, you care to comment? I see you have your mic off.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd certainly respectfully disagree. This our staffing needs in those particular areas. I can point to our planning department, which has 0 people. I can point to 6 other areas in this organization which have 1 person. And if we lose that 1 person, we are without providing services for our community. We've been far too fragile for too long in too many areas. We need to reinforce our staff. And quite frankly, we have never stopped delivering services, and we will not stop delivering services even through a lockdown. It is exhausting for our staff. We have to reinforce them. There is no question about that. The staffing requirements we've put forward are only the ones that we absolutely need. And many of those deliver savings. Many of those also deliver that sustainable staffing complement that allow some relief for those people who are providing those services. So again, we can want to get somewhere, but if we want to fix the problem, we have to have some people who can actually do that. Too far, we've seen too many people leave this organization and not replace them. We need to get some people into some responsibilities so we can actually fix the problem. We're very, very compassionate in terms of what we want to accomplish here. We know we can help fix this problem, but we need to be able to work on it. And that's what those reasonable asks are doing. It's, again, I think quite responsible. Every one of them comes with a business case that certainly justifies what those asks are. We've got, we're paying for some external help that's required to cover things like legal at almost $400 an hour. To have somebody do that internally at a fraction of that rate provides you with savings. This is, you know, pretty simplistic business cases that you do. To the comments about, you know, the references to my salary, I can't comment on why people are asking questions about that. We've answered every question that came to us during the budget process, every question, and some from the people who are represented during this deputation. So if more questions had come in, we'd have answered all of them. However, they did not come in. The ones that were referenced about my salary were dealt with. That was not accurate. We did explain how it's referenced in the document, and hopefully that clarifies the matter.
Now, Mr. Deneau, can you verify if you took a pay increase for 2021?
No, I did not.
Thank you very much.
It wasn't we're questioning his salary. It was we're questioning the way they projected it in the budget.
Yeah.
And Mr. Deneau knows what I'm talking about with that.
I appreciate your comment. And you have to put some faith in the council of the day who spent 3 full days to review that budget. We had the conversation, we asked the questions, we received the answer, and 9 members of the council, as far as I know, were satisfied with that answer. So if that was not the case, then I apologize, but I understood it to be answered and behind us. So I don't know why we were going to bring it back again at this point. As I said, 9 members of council sat for 3 full days and did the budget. So Councillor Chesky, you had a question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yeah, don't accuse me of being educated, because I'm a grade 12 graduate and I've been working in a factory for the last 15 years trying to gain an education there. You keep using the term political speak, and I think that implies dishonesty, and I don't think that's fair to my colleagues. You can watch the 20 hours of budget videos if you like, and they're all public, and you went through every line with us. So at the end of the day, there's 3 options: defer costs to next year, put it on the credit card, cut services, or increase taxes. So unless you guys have some creative ideas that we missed during the meeting, you watched all of it, as you say, then this deputation is no more than insulting, and it's no more than another thing about going to see your neighbor. Okay, it's my I have this floor, please. You can go to your neighbor for sugar. We work well with our neighbors. We'll give them sugar as well. You don't go knock on your neighbor's door and ask him how is he paying his bills. Your neighbor might have a different job than you do in different financial circumstances. Your neighbor might have put an entire downtown in his backyard last year. Every municipality is different. We're not apples to apples. We all have different circumstances. We all, are going through different years. We had some major construction this year. I didn't want to speak to this item. There's 3 options: defer costs, put it on the credit card for next year, cut services, or increase taxes. Unless you have, an answer to one of those 3 things. This isn't political speak. You watch the budget meetings. What's the plan? Where do you find the money? Aside from that, I'd love to move on.
Well, we're going to move on, and we're going to allow Councillor Downer, and I have Councillor Strathern and Councillor Gordon, and we're going to wrap this up. Mayor Strathern, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The underlying premise to all of this is that we're in a pandemic, that we're in a community that is, as of 2012, and still, I would say, is fairly low income and fairly high tax. But I would also say that if you watch the latest figures from the World Bank and the OECD and the concerns coming out of the Central Bank of Canada, as well as the US Federal Reserve, they're all concerned about inflation and the amount of money that's sitting out there as a consequence of over $500 billion rather from the federal government. I don't know how much from the province, sitting in the economy, supporting those individuals at low income who were unable to work, but also paying it to people who maybe didn't need it as much because they took the position, we'll pay it out, and then worry about the details about who was really more eligible or not. The reality is that the World Bank is talking about they've increased just yesterday, they increased their estimate for the economy of Canada to go up by a further 1.5% in this year. So did the OECD. Well, their estimates are out from each other by about 0.2%. The real concern here is, and if you listen to Premier Ford today when he was talking, and other premiers, what they're saying is, be locked down, get ahead with the vaccination programs, which all of these organizations recognize. They also recognize the variants. Still, they make these prognostications. So I understand that there are people in this town who are not as well off as they might have been. But to me, if we're going to get to a place where incomes are better, where taxes aren't where they are projected to be going forward, if we don't do something like staff and plan for growth and the right growth, then we're going to stay the course on this budget. It's the right budget. It's not political speak, it's good financial management. And it's good management of resources and looking at how we're going to grow this town out of that quadrant that the Deputy Mayor and I spoke about. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Councilor Downer?
Yes, I support the budget the way it sits. I've been on councils where there's been zero budgets. And I can tell you the year after, sometimes it's not real pretty when you're playing catch up and you're going to the ratepayer with double-digit increases. And we haven't had very many of them, but we've had at least 3 in my tenure as a councillor and mayor. And I think this budget advances the business of the town without cutting services. I know it's tough. I too am a pensioner. I don't have another job to fall back on. I didn't say okay to the budget to make it financially more stable for myself. I knew I was going to have to pay more money, and it's tough. And I'm not denying that. But I stand by the budget as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Downer. Councilor Gordon?
Thanks for your presentation. It shouldn't come as any shock to anybody watching or listening along that, I agree with this. I mean, I didn't support the budget. Not because I thought we did a bad job. We certainly did try. Could I have tried harder and had more motions than whatever it was, the 2 or 3? Hell yeah. Quite frankly, I didn't think that would, dragging that on and having things defeated one after another was going to be good for anybody. But I can tell you, I know where your spirit's coming from this. There's a lot of Midland residents on that online position. The paper one you submitted that all have the same handwriting kind of doesn't count. But at the end of the day, these petitions, it's not like the more names you have actually have any influence on anyone here. There's no magic number to hit and all of a sudden, ooh, they're going to listen to this now. It could be 5 or it could be 5,000. At the end of the day, I respect the fact that people took the time to fill it out, share their feelings. I know lots have reached out to me. I guess the only thing left to do is if there's going to be a way to, assuming there's any consensus among us to do this tonight with the motion, I think that's going to follow from this, would we have to look at maybe reducing services? We didn't beat that horse at all. I certainly didn't suggest it. I was looking for savings everywhere else, like the 600 grand we were given to Midland Bay Landing, almost puts us at our $1 million savings, but that's still going there. We're going to put in wood things that are, when lumber's never been more expensive in the history of lumber, and we're going to build stuff out of lumber. Anyway, that's a topic for someone else later. But I think we can get to this $1 million, and I don't think it'd be that much to ask. It may mean cutting some services. Some people say we have Cadillac services in this municipality. I love our services, but if we can get us down to 0 or at least the rate of inflation, which a lot of us campaigned and promised on, that would be a win for us. Now, we don't have the ability to run a deficit like the province and the feds, which is unfortunate, but also is fortunate. I mean, they're in the billions now. And with the COVID, it's just, it's going to be a debt that our grandchildren are still going to be paying for. But cutting services, not mandatory ones like plowing the roads, clearly we can't cut this stuff, nor would we consider it. But we need to look at the fact that the tax hikes in future years are inevitable. We do have millions of dollars to I think Mr. Campbell or somebody was talking about the infrastructure. The new water towers alone are just millions and millions of dollars. This stuff has to happen very soon. But we are in pandemic year. This would be basically a second chance for council here to say, let's just have one more look and maybe consider what a service level decrease to get us to 0% or inflation. would look like in this municipality. So I do support asking staff to go back and have a look and present us some options for service cuts to get us to zero or inflation, and have this council look at that, because we did not, none of us looked at what a service cut would look like in this municipality in those 3 days of deliberation. So I support that. I'd like to see what that looks like. I may look at it and go, ooh, there's no way. But at least we've gone through that exercise, and we haven't yet. So I would support having our staff spend a little bit of time and bring us a report back and say, here's how you could do it, and then let us take another crack at it. So thanks for your presentation tonight. It's more of less a question and more of a comment like everyone else, but I do appreciate where you're coming from, and I do appreciate the sentiment, and I believe we can get there. It's going to take a little bit more pain than perhaps we were willing to inflict initially. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys for.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gordon.
I had a follow-up.
We're going to wrap this up. I appreciate your deputation, and thank you very much for coming this evening, Ms. Teets, Mr. Major, and Mr. Lundy. We appreciate your comments and questions, and I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the Midland Bay Landing Development Corporation update of internal use area in the UNESCO Global Geopark Study. Mr. Kernahan? You next deputation.
Sorry, just before we get started there, if I could, is there in fact a motion that follows later tonight as a result of this deputation?
There's not one that's come forward, but council, there is a notice of motion area in this meeting. If a councilor would like to bring this forward, we'll have to do that at that time.
Don't we customarily have motions like this that follow a deputation that we then deliberate on and vote on in the same meeting?
This is a little different, and I know that I believe we'll get through the deputation and we can come back to this at the notice of motion, if that's fine with you, Councillor Gordon.
Sure, no problem. I just want to make sure this is treated the same way we treat all of them. So
this is more of a reconsideration. It's not there's no motion that can come forward because we've already passed it. So this is would be a 2/3 vote that have to come forward, and someone who, if I understand correctly, voted in favor of the budget would have to bring it forward for reconsideration. The budget's been passed, so I believe we'll have to get verification. But if we could leave that to notice of motion, if that's fine with this council. Wonderful. Mr. Kernahan, thank you for coming. Then we're update on the internal use of the Global Geopark Study.
Your worship, councillors, staff, and those watching online. Good evening. I'm Bill Kernahan from the Midland Bay Landing Development Corporation, and we have two positive updates to provide you with tonight. One is about the interim use area. That interim use area was introduced a year ago when we said we wanted to create a mock-up of the Waterfront Promenade so that the public and investors could see what this significant portion of the development was all about. That was a year ago. In further reflection, we thought we would like to improve what we're doing by having this a much more accessible and visible demonstration of what this waterfront promenade would be. So upon reflection, we said, why don't we move it to the location of the coal dock? Now that is a double benefit. It first of all becomes, as I said, visible and accessible to the public, but more importantly, it also helps the 2022 arrival of large cruise ships. So by working collectively with the town, we can build this promenade that has a double benefit. Sherry, could you show the first picture? I have a picture to show you. And that is to illustrate, here it comes. So thank you. Could you just enlarge it a wee bit? So to show you, we're proposing to build a 100-meter long promenade mock-up. We want to call it a demonstration on the coal dock wall. The coal dock wall is about 800 feet long. I'm going back and forth between metric and other. So it's about 250 meters long. We're talking about 100 meters of this promenade walk mock-up to the west side of the current area where people park. So people could still stand and fish off the pier. They could still see up the bay. But what this is doing is to introduce what the promenade is. And the promenade consists of 3 parts. A large public walkway right on the water's edge, so people can stand and look up the Georgian Bay. Then there is a strip with planting, lights, seating, picnic benches in the middle. And then on the other side is a 3-meter wide multi-use bike trail. So that whole combination is what would be seen along 1,100 meters of the entire length of Midland Bay Landing development. So we're showing you a demonstration of that so that people can become familiar with what this is. To complement that, there are 3 yellow spots showing up there. And what we're proposing to do with that is to have large panels that would show images of what the overall development is, where this waterfront promenade goes relative to the development. It would show the open spaces, all of which aggregate 10 acres out of 40 acres of new parkland and promenade, and to show that off and images of what the overall development would look like. So I'd like to show you a second picture, Sherry, to show you what we're talking about in terms of the promenade. The promenade piece is a very important element that, and so here's some inspirational images of waterfront promenades. Most of the waterfront promenades are really quite wide. We're talking about 7 meters, 22 feet. They're hard paved, usually with concrete, perhaps with some accents. And we're talking about this in concrete with the same accents that you've got on King Street, using the same interlocking stone, so that you're using the same vocabulary downtown, and it shows a link back to here. So you'd walk along the waterfront. There would be benches directly on the waterfront and back from the waterfront for seating. You can see all of these images, some from Queens Quay in Toronto. The middle is the West Waterfront Trail. That's all concrete with brick inserts. Another one has, it's all hard surface. You can see planting, benches, lighting. That's what we're talking about. The bottom left corner is Baltimore, Maryland. It has, again, a very large promenade with a lot of brick inserts. We're talking about much less. The Navy Pier in Chicago. And then bottom right is rather interesting because it's somewhat similar characteristics. Concrete paving with inserts of brick. And then you can see heading off to the right is the bike trail or multi-use trail. So what we're talking about is to build about 100 meters of this, subject to the budget, but to do all of this and put it there as the demonstration and the showcase of what this signature piece of the waterfront development will be. So we said, let's move it and let's show it off and let's make it far more accessible. And the benefit is the ships can also enjoy it in the future. So that's update number 1. Oh, when are we going to do this? The plan is to do that as soon as practical. We need to get some people. We have designers that have been working on Thunder Bay, Burlington, Port Credit. So they're very familiar with waterfront developments and they're working with us. We need to get some drawings, get some prices, and then we'll get it built. The plan is to get it built and in use this summer. So if you could close that one down, thanks, Sherry. The second update is on the UNESCO Global Geopark feasibility study. This study we've introduced to Penetangwishing, Tiny, and Tay councils. We've made a presentation to them about the study, its purpose, what we expect to come out of it. And we didn't ask them for anything at this point. It was more to introduce them to the idea. And then we'll bring them updates as we're going to do with you too. So as part of what we've been doing, that we as being Brand Trade the consultants, they have had numerous meetings, collected a mountain of research that they're now starting to input against the various criteria that are in place that we need to answer how we would answer those questions and see what benefits we have the benefits. All the assets are here. Where are the deficiencies and what do we need to do to become designated? They've also made a great relationship with Geoparks Canada, who are very excited that we're considering this designation. They've reached out to other geoparks who want to help us in achieving the designation. All of that research is just overwhelming that they now have to sift through and add to as they continue to develop the report. So what they're going to do is to develop the assets that we have, the things that we need to improve, and then look at the feasibility, which appears very feasible, that we could achieve designation from UNESCO.
2 minutes to go, sir.
So I was just about to wrap up. Thank you. So those are the two updates. We think we've made some great progress on both fronts, and we're open for some questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I see we have first up is Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gordon.
Thanks. I've got a few questions, but on your meeting at the 26th of March, God, I love watching these things on YouTube. Mind you, some meetings are missing. I got to talk to the clerk about that, see where they are. You're talking about a mix of combination of lumber, concrete, and pavers, and those the graphics and pictures look really nice. I got to tell you, it would look lovely, but as I think I stated, perhaps to the wrong people, lumber right now, especially pressure treated and stuff, is not only in short supply, but it's just astoundingly expensive. And you know, again, we're with the whole cost savings thought here. Why couldn't we do this in a artist rendition in a 3D walkthrough on a computer? Why do we actually have to build this? And I know we gave you guys 600 grand or whatever it was, but why do we have to blow that right now when it's like the most expensive time to do that? Why couldn't we do something digital or just clear some brush and dump some crushed stone for a path and let people use the property and worry about, you know, actually blowing wads of dough to make it really beautiful, which clearly I'm sure it would be. Do that later when things are a little better and we're a bit more awash in cash. And I guess lastly, is the town of Midland doing the tendering on this? So it's going to go through our regular tender website where, you know, any of the local guys or non-local guys can bid on this gig to do the work, or is it something special you guys are doing? Those are my bundle of questions for you.
So you do have a bundle of questions.
Mr. Kernhan.
So thank you for the bundle of questions. In order, we are not building this, as I said, out of lumber. This is concrete with pavers on the walking section. There is a middle planting section, and then there is the asphalt multi-use trail. So we're not using raft of lumber. Second, you did not give us $600,000. You gave us $250,000 for this capital work, and we intend to use that or less. With respect to tendering it, we are a separate corporation. We are working with the town to cooperate on how to get this built based upon drawings that we generate. I must have missed one of your
Councillor Gordon?
questions.
Do you have follow-up? Councillor Gordon?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I just want to make it clear that, you know, our local, you know, the Brabants and all the other bigs that do all this kind of amazing stuff for shoreline, you know, reclamation, whatever, that they're going to have abilities to bid on these projects, not just, you know, out of town folks. Like this is going to go the normal bidding process way where it's really open and transparent, just as people would expect from taxpayer funded projects.
Mr. Kernhan?
This will be done in an open and transparent way. And we are aware of the procurement policies, and we know that there are a number of local contractors that could help with this work, as well as those that are out of town. That is an ongoing discussion as to how to tender the work.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other questions or comments with regards to this presentation? I'll come back to you, Councilor Gordon, if that's all right, if there's any other questions. If not, any other questions? Mayor Strathern?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Mr. Kernahan. Under the Parks Master Plan, there is Stream 2, which is park redevelopment, and within that there is the I'm looking for it. I've lost it now, but it's the waterfront Bundy's Bay Landing Park, Middle Bay Landing, sorry, Park. It has a total cost of about $115,000. Now it's not slated to start for some time, but since you're doing the work basically in it, is the design, the work that was done in the master plan contemplated in any of the work that you're doing?
So in response to your question, the Parks Master Plan that we're very aware of, that component of the master plan is specifically for the Midland Bay Landing Park, which is currently the parking lot, or sort of like parking lot that currently exists. That whole area, as part of the master plan, is a green open space without any parking. So it changes in the future. The Parks Master Plan does have an allocation of money some years out to do that. So it is not part of the scope of work that we're talking about. Our scope of work literally is 100 meters long in the 3 parallel sections that I just described to create this. So why are we doing it this way and not virtually? Because we have learned over many years that the best way for the public and investors and everybody to see it is to see the real McCoy. And we don't want to build something that's temporary or the wrong materials to give the wrong first impression to this signature piece of Midland's waterfront. It ties right into your active transportation. It ties right into walkability. This is going to be a signature piece for the town. So we want to get it right the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Kernahan. Any other questions or comments? I'll go to Councilor Main, then I'll come back to you, Councilor Gordon, if that's all right.
Sure. Thank you again. Thank you again for the presentation. I'm looking forward to the interim site use. I know there's a lot of commentary that people would like for the town to make more interim use out of it. And I think, like you were saying, it's a great demonstration project. Obviously, it's going to have some benefits with potential cruise ship overflow landing if that ever, we get back to zero COVID soon enough. But I think the interim site I think it's a really good idea, and I think it's going to really improve the park, and people are going to be able to enjoy it. I guess the question is on the interim site use on the seawall. I know there was discussion around that seawall. The steel on it might need it to be upgraded or reviewed. Have we been given the green light that area would then be suitable for dockage if we do this little interim demonstration project? Thank you.
Mr. Kernahan?
So in answer to the seawall, there was an engineering firm that did look at the seawall and all of the remaining edge of the water that goes all the way around through the former Uniman site. I don't recall any issues with the seawall. I assume that the town engineering folks also looked at the seawall as they proposed to bring large new cruise ships in. The seawall has been there for a lot of years, and the plan is that we would be using it as is. We would put a steel cap over the edge, the top edge of the steel wall. And our proposal is that we would put all of this in. This would not be a temporary feature. This would be permanent. So you're paying for this, but it's going to get used in the ultimate development, rather than something that's temporary that you throw away. So we think this is a better long-term investment to do it right and leave it there for the long term.
Thank you so much. I was just Googling, the Bay Como is 225 meters. Apparently that's the maximum you can get in the Welland Canal system. So I guess we're not getting anything as big as the Ever Given anytime soon. And thank you.
Let's hope not.
Well, in response to that, you can have the ship as long as you like, as long as it's not any wider than the Welland Canal. And as you see our grain ships coming in, they're usually sadly scraped along the sides. So I hope that the fancy new cruise ships will fit the Welland Canal and are not scraped down their sides when they arrive in Midland in 2022.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kernahan. Mr. CEO, I see you have your camera on. Did you have a comment quickly?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'll be quick with my comments, but I did want to make a point that the previous deputation and this deputation, I think, have some relevancy when you think of both of them. You know, we're all concerned with trying to make Midland taxpayers certainly not bear the burden that they have in the past. And growth, as we know, is one of those things that can certainly help us to get out of that situation. Developing this site, I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity. We all know that. If you understand the plan that is unfolding here at Midland Bay, this has a really marvelous protected area for public access. And that's what this space will help demonstrate, not only to developers, but to the public. There will be bigger illustrations around there. There will be digital medium that I know that Midland Bay Development Corp is looking at as well. But to have this live demonstration is really important, particularly in an environment when we know real estate is a very hard commodity. And so when you can bring potential buyers down to this, find the right developer for this type of a situation, which we hope to start conversations with this year, you can hopefully get to a place where you have that annuity that is delivered by Midland Bay Landing. And that's the kind of growth that will help relieve the tax base that we're looking for. It's not the whole answer, but it is part of the answer. And it is action that is actually going to take place to help address this. It's not pushing it down the road. It's not delaying it. It's actually taking some action now to position us for the future. So I certainly commend the work that's being done by this board.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Councillor Gordon.
Thanks. I just wanted to circle back to the cost. I mean, I just kind of meant it flippantly, not, but I'm just looking at the 2020 final budget for Midland Bay Landing Corporation. Your total operating capital cost is $701,364. So yeah, we're given $250K for the site maintenance, right? So your total capital is $425,000 for 2021. Your total OpEx costs are $276,364. So $701,000. So I guess that's what I'm getting at. We were, you know, if we somehow saved $1 million this year, we're at 0% tax increase, and there's $701,000 of that million right there. So I think the CAO may have some input on this, but I'm just looking at numbers. So like, what I'd like to know is,
I appreciate.
If we don't
I
have
think
to
that's a question for Mr. Kernahan. I think that's something for he's the chair of a budget that the council approved. So I don't think that's fair to put Mr. Kernahan on the spot with regards to.
I said 600,000, and he said no, it's 250, and I'm looking at the published document that's actually 701. So I just wanted to get that out there.
In 2021. Okay. Mr. Kernahan, you care to answer?
We're more than aware of what the approved budget from council is. The operating portion of the budget is $277,000, exactly the same as last year. The capital portion, which is separate and doesn't affect the tax base, as you've already heard. Though that separate part, the 250 is the interim use. You must remember that was approved a year ago and deferred. This is not new money. This was approved a year ago. The other are engineering studies that are necessary to advance the development of the Midland Bay Landing project. If you don't do that, then your sunk cost of more than $4 million sits there. We need to do these studies to entice the development community to come and invest in our community. Without that, the certainty is not great, and consequently, the returns we would expect to get won't be as great either. In the development community, you have to remove the risks. That's what we're doing with this money that's in the capital budget.
Mr. CEO, you care to comment?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, Mr. Kernahan understands his budget very well. I was just going to point out that a majority of that spend does not impact the tax levy as he suggested. So you cannot, if you took away all of that money, there is not a substantial effect on the tax levy.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up, Councilor Gordon?
Yeah, my other follow-up was, well, that's true. It doesn't impact the tax levy right now, but we still have money back in the reserve. We blow money from the reserve. It needs to be replenished at some point. And that comes from the tax money. So it becomes like this, who's on first, but I don't want to argue the minutia of that. I get it. So the next thing is, what about the parking lot where people, it's really like a goat path right now. It's like probably the worst parking lot we have where people to drive down there to go fishing, and that's where the potty is. From my understanding, the only thing you're going to be your scope is that 100 meters, that 100-meter bit. Everything else is, you're not going to be doing anything of this. And I was just wondering if and Mr. Campbell just popped on, woohoo, perfect. If we're going to be dumping some crushed stone or doing anything with that parking lot, because it's just absolutely terrible. And I do get a lot of people complaining about that and sending me photos and whatnot. So I wasn't sure if that was part of your enhancements. So people, don't blow out a tire or an axle going down to walk on the new promenade.
So I will answer, and along with Mr. Campbell. We did have conversations with Mr. Campbell of how that once we've moved the demonstration promenade next to the parking lot for the use of the cruise ships, we know that there's some money in the town budget for the cruise ships. We said, wouldn't it make sense for us to cooperate and coordinate on the work that's being done and have it done at the same time? We need to get it done for the cruise ships to come next season. So we need to implement it now. And I'll let Mr. Campbell answer with some more details on the parking lot component.
Mr. Campbell?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Council approved $50,000 in this year's budget to repair the parking lot and expand it a bit so that we'd be ready for the cruise ships.
And that would
wonderful.
be
Thank you.
Money.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the grill in as usual, Mr. Kernahan. You're always a good sport, and I do appreciate your answers to the questions.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Kernahan? Thank you very much, sir, for coming this evening. Oh, I apologize. Councilor Main has a question.
I think we're all really excited about the geopark designation. Obviously, you were mentioning that there's lots and lots of reports and data analysis and all that stuff. So I'm guessing that's probably not a late 2021 that's going to be coming. It's probably going to be maybe sometime next year, or do you think it might be at the end of this year? Thank you.
Kernahan?
So thank you for the question. The study is intended to be finished by July. So there is a raft of information that has already been accumulated. It needs to be compiled and distilled into the feasibility report. But the intention is, our plan is to have this finished by July, because that sets out the feasibility. And we would then go back and visit with each of the participants. And one of the biggest things that needs to be done as part of the geopark designation is to establish a vision for the whole area, and more or less, let's call it generally the heart of Georgian Bay, with the 4 municipalities and the Bosley First Nations. Let's call that the geopark. We now need to go back and update each of the participants with the feasibility study, and we will tell them, like we just have tonight, as we're going along, to tell them how this is evolving. But ultimately, when the study is shared, we fully expect that each of the participants will want to know what the benefits are and what's the cost, and more importantly, where's the money coming from. All of the geoparks that we're familiar with in Canada are funded usually from other governmental sources. It's not fully funded locally. And the other thing is, usually it generates a huge amount of private sector money. So this is not likely to be a huge burden on any of the participants, because it's going to be an accumulation of funds coming from various different sources. Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. We look forward to having this materialize in front of us. Thank you again for all your hard work.
Okay, we're looking forward to it also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kernahan, and appreciate both deputations tonight. And we'll move on to the next item. We appreciate you coming this evening, and have yourself a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have the COVID update from our Mr. CEO, Mr. Deneau.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If you don't mind, I'll defer just a couple of minutes off the start here to Andy Camp, who'd like to make an announcement.
Please do.
Your worship, members of council, Chuck Fitty's attending online tonight. One, because he had a couple reports online, but this is also Chuck's very last council meeting in his career. Chuck is retiring as of Friday this week after over 30 years of work in the wastewater business. I've had the honor to work with Chuck for a number of years at this municipality and elsewhere. And I've learned a lot from him. Hopefully he's learned a little from me over time, but Chuck, why don't you turn your camera on so people can see your pretty face here while we do this. And I'd just like to acknowledge in Chuck's career and the knowledge that he brought to the town. Chuck was the Hatfield Award winner from the Water Environment Association of Ontario in 2016 as the top wastewater operator in Ontario, showing his professionalism and his knowledge and sharing it with not just the communities that he's worked for, but across the province and with his peers. That was a huge acknowledgement of Chuck's skills and abilities. I mentioned earlier that when Chuck arrived in 2017, we were doing well in our plants. We were running well, but Chuck, with his leadership, his style with the staff, and the staff, working hard with them, he's leaving this organization and the operations in a better place than what it was when he came. And I think that's a real achievement for him. Also, the mentoring that Chuck has staff done with Andre Pepin, who is a supervisor. They moved up from the frontline staff. Andre will be the acting manager while we go through the recruitment process. But Chuck, took in a significant way, building the staff resources, building the knowledge, making sure there's future with the organization for growth and learning. And I think he's done an excellent job in the town for the last 4 years that he's been here. And one thing about water and wastewater guys, they're in the background. They don't have the flashy red fire trucks driving around. And people might not really see all the great work that the water wastewater staff do here. But I know they're experts in what they do. They're all licensed operators. Chuck is a highly licensed operator in the province of Ontario. And we will miss him as an operator. We'll miss him as a supervisor and a manager. And Chuck, I'd like to wish you and Lois a good retirement. And I mentioned the award that the Hatfield Award that Chuck had won a few years ago. His father also won that award years ago at the city of Burlington, running their wastewater plant. And Chuck's daughter is just entering or has entered the wastewater field. And I think Chuck, and I'll certainly be looking to see how Lily progresses in her wastewater career. Because as Chuck said, you haven't heard the last of the Fitties in the wastewater business in the province of Ontario. So thank you, Chuck, for all your hard work.
Hear, hear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a whirlwind 4 years. It's been exciting. And the old adage, you can't lead a horse to water and make them drink. You have a good crew here, and I'm confident that things will progress as long as we keep giving them the tools of keeping them engaged. You're going to see some great things.
I think our chair is frozen.
Councillor Gordon.
Thanks, Chuck. I just wanted to, applaud the fact that, for the past 4 years, you take all of Midland's crap and you do a great job, man. Like when I first, my first time ever going to the poop plant was after election, and I was genuinely curious about what happens in there. I've smelled it a million times, actually not very much in the past 4 years, but never really knew much about it. And then both you and Mr. Campbell on a bitterly cold, miserable day gave me the full dollar tour of the place. And I developed a really deep respect for what you guys do there. And as you know, I can be a little critical sometimes or calling things that I think aren't working right in the community. But I don't think I've had anything to say about you guys. The community doesn't complain about you to me ever. And I certainly have nothing that I could make up about you, so nor would I. So I just wanted to say you guys have done a great job. Your whole team has under your leadership. And, I respect what you guys do and how hard you work and what you're doing for our infrastructure and keeping our drinking water safe, me out of jail, and just making sure that everything runs tickety-boo down at that plant. So thanks for all of your service with us, and we're going to miss you. And I guess it shouldn't be a shock to anyone following along that there'll be another job posting on our website to try and fill your very large shoes. So good luck in retirement, and thanks again.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd just like to add to that in the 4 years you've been here, I've been able, this to one area that I don't have to worry about. I don't wake up in the middle of the night thinking what's going to happen with water, wastewater. And I really, really admire the way that you bring your people along. Amazing. Thank you for everything. I don't see the deputy mayor back.
Sorry,
yet.
I'm back. I apologize. I'm not sure what happened, but I lost connection there for a second. I wanted to thank Mr. Fitty on behalf of committee for all the great work, and all the residents Midland for all the safe water we're able to drink. And when we flush our toilets, we know it's going to a better place. So thank you very much, and good luck with your retirement, and all the best to you and your family. You're going to be dearly missed, but please enjoy it. Hopefully this lockdown will be over soon. You can travel and enjoy some time with your family.
Thank you.
Mr. CEO, and thank you, Mr. Campbell, for that nice words.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and yes, Chuck, thank you so much for everything you've done for the town. I've only known you for a year, but certainly very impressed with the leadership you brought to this area and extended to the rest of our team. We're certainly going to miss your innovative style that has been embraced by everyone at Water and Wastewater, and certainly wish you all the best in the future. And if you want to get rid of that Honda mini bike, who to call? Thanks very much. I'll go to my COVID update now, if you don't mind, Deputy Mayor. Just before I do that, on behalf of the administration, I do want to extend our congratulations to Ms. Murray and Mr. Penny for their fantastic awards of merit. I've met Mr. Penny and certainly look forward to meeting Ms. Murray, maybe at a crosswalk someday, and I certainly congratulate them on those outstanding contributions. In terms of COVID updates, I'll be brief, and I'll be going through a list here that I think you'll see probably in maybe a news release that we're going to put together. But as a leadership team, we get together with all our leaders across the town on a bi-weekly basis. On the last meeting, we got together and we wanted to remind ourselves of all the accomplishments that were done with this town over the last year. Michael Jeremy celebrated his first year anniversary with the town, and in reflection of that, bringing good talent like that on board, we thought, let's think about the last year in the pandemic. So I wanted to share a few highlights with you and then get to some of the more topical news that's obviously been released. So through this last year, I can tell you that the controls that were put in place early when this pandemic started haven't changed much, because I think they were very good at the start. The Joint Health Safety Unit, the COVID recovery team that we put in place, and the emergency management team, which was cross-functional in terms of having members of staff and council represented, I think has worked really well and allowed us to be quite responsive in managing all the changes that have come at us through the province. In the clerk's office, handling these types of meetings virtually, I think we've come a long way from being able to coordinate these meetings and do them effectively. And, I think that's something that's going to continue into the future, certainly probably in a hybrid manner. But, I think kudos to the large team that helped put that together. In addition, we've done things electronically like signatures for death certificates and burial permits. Again, those things are important, not only for speed in servicing our customers, but in allowing it to happen safely. Same thing with marriage licenses. We were one of the few municipalities to actually do marriage licenses last year, which some people may or may not appreciate. In the human resources side, ADP, we finally implemented ADP. That was a long time coming, but our HR team and our payroll folks really did a tremendous job in getting that over the line, implemented a really important strategic tool that will help us not only self-serve for a lot of our HR needs, but also track where our activities are happening. So really good work from our HR team. The recruitment was really, really, again, one of those areas that we focused on. We needed some very strategic people in place in managing recruitment. People come and go in a municipality of our size, and having a strong recruitment team that does that is really important. We also deliver, and again, it's in this budget, over $400,000 of savings. That does provide a positive impact for the tax levy, and that's in the budget this year. So there's really good work being done in that area. On the finance side, a lot of electronic modernization done there. Our AP process, you saw the modernization of transit passes. So being able to actually do transit passes online and loading up online was done. Completing all the analysis that's done for all those COVID relief measures. That takes a tremendous amount of effort by our finance team. That was done by them. A new budget process involving everyone in the organization and in giving more time for people to understand what the budget is. Doing that and preparing it virtually, again, outstanding work done by the finance team. In the communication side, we did over 80 media releases and 61 staff updates. That's about 4 times the volume of a normal year. So incredible amount of communication that went externally and internally. Public sessions that we did, we found a way to do this virtually, and I attended a number of them on some very specific topics, and again, those were done quite well, and I think we're again learning how to do those things even better. Our customer service counter, if you've been to any of them at any of our sites, you can certainly attest to how certainly responsive our team has been to serving our customers, opening our doors the minute that we can, staying open, even when we're in orange and red, and sometimes in lockdown with restricted services. Doing it with booking appointments was really important to monitor that safely. But again, that was done. We never shut our doors. We never stopped doing services. So kudos to those people for doing that. At the NSSRC, we were one of the municipalities that opened first and stayed open the longest in many of those services. We kept our ice pad open. We kept another pad, reserved it for all kinds of uses. And as you know, created a vaccination center literally overnight that serves almost all of Simcoe, Muskoka, or North Simcoe. So again, phenomenal work by that staff done. When they were closed, we pivoted those people to actually renovate the places that we needed, but we also moved them to operations outside, into planning and into bylaws. So again, great flexibility shown by that staff, really going above and beyond the call. Our IT department really had to step up, as we all know, in every case, but our IT department, again, understaffed. Hopefully we'll get some more people in place, but that team really stepped up to the plate when everybody needed it to serve us virtually and make sure we were taking care of our assets and the security of our department. No issues that were present, and that's only because of the professionalism and caliber of those people. On the procurement side, I'm going to give a special shout out to Kim Cruson. If one area, if you're in any business, through a pandemic, trying to find stuff is nearly impossible. Kim Cruson hit this out of the park in so many manners. She got us stuff that people didn't think we were able to get, and she did that in a fair and transparent manner. She was just working night and day, literally going around the globe to find us the stuff we needed. And that's Kim. And she also handled the procurement of a lot of the things that we needed to get done. And she did that again, making sure we were doing this fairly and transparently. So a fantastic job by Kim in that area. Culture and tourism. You saw the fantastic art gallery downtown when we were doing the King Street. some of the art's behind me now. I've kind of borrowed it from Karen, and that was a fantastic, again, demonstration of the artistry of people in the community, but also decorating our downtown. We did virtual Canada Days. We did virtual Family Fun Days, Butter Tart Festival with a t-shirt fundraiser for GBGH. We did a reverse Santa Claus parade, which everyone enjoyed. And we worked with the BIA on our Christmas decorations downtown. So again, this team finding a way to get things done, even during a pandemic. On the engineering side, probably one of the biggest projects, I shouldn't say probably, it is the biggest project this municipality's ever done, on time, on budget, and in a pandemic. We completed King Street, a phenomenal job. We also did a water treatment upgrade at Well 7 last year, and that was on budget as well. Building and planning. People, when they're in a pandemic, want to renovate. And in order to do that, they need to deal with your building and planning folks. And we saw volumes like we'd never seen. Not the same type of revenues because they're smaller projects, but incredible amount of volumes. And they need to be inspected when they do this work. So the protocols to manage that had to be managed. And that team, again, did a fantastic job. Water, wastewater, you heard from Chuck and Andy, but that team is extremely innovative in what they did. And you know about the tremendous job they do to keep us safe. They also do a tremendous amount of innovative work. One of the few municipalities worked with McMaster University on analyzing the impacts of COVID on wastewater. That's because this municipality is one of the best. Using those pipe sonics, to do the type of investigation we're doing to lower the cost and actually find things that aren't going well in that system. Again, extremely innovative. Our fire services and other essential services. Tremendous folks in responding to the need. You can see how if you go down there at night, you can see how they're safely doing training out of doors and making sure our staff are getting the appropriate training they can do. So tremendous work done there. At the operations and harbor, one of the first public boat launches to open last year, as you remember, and hopefully we'll do the same thing this year. We're paying attention to that. The parks, the protocols that our operations folks have to adhere to move staff around, to make sure that we're following protocols that don't allow people to get infected has been phenomenal. We haven't seen, any significant downtime because of that. And that's because people have really been taking care of themselves, taking care of their teammates, and making sure the job was getting done. And that's through snow, cutting all the grass, repairing light green, all that work that has to be required was done by that team. We were one of the first municipalities to use those fogging devices. Again, an innovative strategy to help us do cleaning during the pandemic. Fantastic work done from them. The last group I'd like to comment on is transit. These are really some of the heroes, certainly in essential services. So Gary, Sina, Steve, Bill, Christina, and Romeo, thank you so much for taking care of our transit needs of our community. You were phenomenal. There were times when we only had 3 drivers, but we never lost a shift. Never lost a shift, and that's commitment from people in the transit area. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you as well to our accessible transit partners at Community Reach for helping on the accessible side. So from all of us, thank you so much to everyone who had a fantastic year during the pandemic. Now to pivot, we're now, as we all know, entering our 3rd provincial-wide emergency stay-at-home order. And again, from what you just heard, I think you'll find that this organization will pivot once again to make sure that we can continue to deliver services. We'll have to make some adjustments. We'll take a look at the regulations to make sure that we're complying with those regulations. More of that detail will certainly come out in short order. But certainly what the province is doing is encouraging only essential travel. Please stay at home and only do things that you need to that are essential. And that includes exercise, obviously. So if you need to get out and exercise, please, by all means, do that. Just do it safely. You'll see the restrictions that are going to be in place on retail. So please continue to support our local businesses for things like takeout. There'll be restrictions on when you can do some curbside from other types of retail. So just, again, pay attention to those restrictions are, and hopefully you can support those businesses for those essential things that you need. but certainly if you look at the epidemiological results, you'll see that there's no question we're in a third wave. This is a pretty severe variant that's taking hold. And we're seeing, I think there's 14 people in ICU right now with Muskoka. So hopefully we'll get this under control through this most recent measure. Again, as this tends to evolve, we'll make any announcements that we need to make. We'll probably send an update out tomorrow in terms of what we're doing at Town Hall. We expect we'll have to restrict to only appointment services, but you can still get your services. You just need to certainly call, and we'll make sure that we space people accordingly. But we'll continue to serve throughout this, and hopefully this will be over sooner than later. So I'll leave that as the extent of my update, unless there's any questions from members of council.
Any questions or comments to Mr. Deneau, our CEO? I see none. Councillor Main, and then I have Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm very excited about obviously the vaccine rollout. I think everyone is eagerly awaiting vaccine rollout. Just quick numbers. Ontario is about 80,000 vax a day. They hit 105,000. That's going to push, if we can maintain those numbers with all the mass vax clinics that we have at NSRC and in Penetang, we might get 2.4 to 3 million Ontarians vaxxed a month. And I'm very hopeful that we can hit 10 million Ontario vaxxed by Canada Day. That's the number that I'm kind of crossing my fingers, hoping for. So again, if you can help your others, your grandparents, your neighbors, to try to point them in the right direction. I think everyone's well aware of how to book on the Ontario site or through the Simcoe Muskoka. But again, it sounds like not everyone is logging on. It sounds like there's about 1 million people that are eligible that haven't registered. So again, try to help those access the vaccines. What a great overview of the last year. That was it's worth celebrating. It's kind of a weird term. I guess that's not the right term, but certainly appreciate all the hard work from staff. Like, it's just an incredible, and we still have months to go to get out of this. I still think that there's a Netflix special waiting to be written called A Small Town Wedding, about a couple that leaves the city to come to a small town to get married in the pandemic, but I'll leave the creative writers to that one. Just a quick question for you, Mr. CAO, was, so with all these changes, a lot of people always ask, hey, oh, what's new? How's this? This is a very simple question. Who should they contact at the town with inquiries regarding services or rentals or whatnot? Is there one number? Is there an email, website? What's the best way for this people to get a hold of the town to sort these types of things out? Thank you.
Mr. CEO?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Main. Actually, this is a great question for me to we did make an announcement about our customer experience office that we formed with existing staff. So under the leadership of Angela Grenier, who also supports the CAO's office, Angela will be supporting the customer experience office. So we've got some, 3 people who are typically supporting our customers in various areas. We brought them together as a team to focus on really making sure that customer experience across all of the areas in the town of Midland are supported, so that we can relieve some of that pressure from staff who may be taking some of those calls, and understand how our customers can be better serviced. So I'd certainly encourage them to call into the number for the town, and we'll handle any inquiries. You can also send it electronically through the town website, and that same team will handle those types of inquiries. So both electronically or calling the town, you can get that type of information.
Oh, thank you. People have lots of questions these days.
Councillor Gordon?
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to say that the town's response to COVID, I mean, by most people's standards, and that's like 99% of the people that talk to me, they're quite happy with the way that we've managed to keep things going. There's always going to be the few people chirping about this or that, but globally, you guys have really done a bang up job, and all the staff are to be commended for that. Working remotely, redeploying people so you don't have to lay them off, doing that kind of stuff. It means a lot to people. Nobody wants to go on the CERB, right, if they don't have to. So I do appreciate that. And, I just want to make sure you hear that from me. So The other thing is, this is more for my my hockey buds, including my buddy Frank. You know, like this whole once COVID is over, you know, that we keep hearing is starting to sound a lot like, you know, when the Leafs win the cup again. So, you know, with any luck, this, you know, we're not going to see a fourth wave and a fifth wave. And I think to a large degree, that's just how closely people pay attention to what's an essential reason to travel. I know I still have to go to work and I still have to drive to Barrie. There are days where I don't, and I work remotely. And I'm happy to see that some of these restrictions now involve essential items only in the big box stores to try and level the playing field a little bit, so people don't feel so, you know, hard done by legitimately by having to close and the big box store getting to rake in the bucks. So I think the province is trying here, and I think we need to do our part and play along one more time, and just keep on keeping on and try and put this plague behind us until everyone gets the stabs. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Mayor Strathern.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Deneau's role in this. He came in virtually at the outset. I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Sadhu and the senior leadership team that at the outset, the conversation was, well, in about 2 weeks, we should be able to wrap this up and we'll move along. And it was quite a shock to then have to say to them, it was quite a shock for them to hear that would probably be 2 years according to the epidemiologist modeling. And people looked at us like we were crazy, and here we are. But Mr. Deneau, Mr. Sidhu, Mr. Elliott, all the senior leadership team was able to pivot and to adapt the organization and to encourage the employees at a time when everybody was really wondering what the heck was going to happen, were they going to be able to work. It's a testament also, I'd like to say, to this council that we continue to support the senior leadership team by investment in the technologies and investment in the people to get succession built in here with Mr. Fitty's efforts, etc., Mr. Campbell's efforts in rebuilding the operations group into a very, very effective entity. And it just continues. So council deserves a bit of a pat on the back for supporting that through the budget process. As Mr. Deneau said, I know that the deputants tonight not happy with likely the answer they've gotten so far, but in fact, this is about investing for growth, and in that growth, we then start to see the burden on the lower income taxpayers reduced. And Mr. Deneau and the senior leadership team have shown that that investment pays by one of the most comprehensive budget documents we've seen, ferreting out practices and processes that were not serving us well, documenting them, showing us how to do better. And so, Mr. Deneau, thank you for that. And thank you to the senior leadership team, and heartfelt thanks to council for making those tough decisions and supporting the efforts of staff to serve the broader community. Well, I think well done to everybody.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Any other questions or comments with regards to the COVID update? I see none. I personally want to thank Mr. Deneau and all the staff at the town of Midland for all their hard work. It truly is an honor, and I'm so privileged that of the job that we've done over this COVID-19. All the 10 years I've had on council, this is probably one of the most proud moments. It really is hard to believe that we were in this pandemic. I remember getting stopped in front of Grounded Coffee by a business owner downtown Midland. And he was, you know, why are you ripping up the street? I plan on being open in 2 weeks. And that was well over a year ago. So, you know, we were able to get the main street done. We have some wonderful new businesses coming in, even during a pandemic. I saw today a new olive oil company, and things are expanding and new business. So the future really is promising, and it really is a testament to the hard work of all the staff in the town of Midland. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It cannot be easy, I know, for everybody. And as Ford said today, we'll get through this together, my friends, and hopefully we will. So I hope for better days, and let's hope for a great live these 28 days, we stay strong. Hopefully we can see sort of the end of the rainbow. So thank you very much, Mr. Dino.
Thank you. Thank you for all your comments. I certainly appreciate them, and I accept them on behalf of the entire team. And when I say the entire team, I certainly include all members of council. We're all public servants, and we all embrace this role with a tremendous amount of humility and gratitude for the ability to serve our residents. And it is not easy at times, but it is rewarding as well. And I can tell you that we're extremely optimistic about what we can do here in Midland. This is a tremendous team. This is a tremendous community. And I admire the courage of this council as well, and I appreciate their support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dino. We'll move on to the next item, which is notices of motion. Any notice of motion? This is your Councilor Gordon. I know you voiced earlier.
Okay, well, thanks. I'm not going to put a notice of motion because, like I said, I'm told I can't, right? Because I voted against the budget, so I couldn't table one to revisit. So, well, like, unless that's wrong, but
well, we could ask the clerk to verify how we go forward, because I know that, and I may have misspoke. I want to make sure that I have the proper information, but I understand the budget has been passed. And so to reconsider, and I don't even know if we can do a reconsideration, because I believe that has to come at the actual meeting. So if Madam Clerk could verify how, if we wanted to get this on the table, how we would go about that. So if you could clarify for us, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sure. So you're correct, Deputy Mayor. A motion to reconsider would have to be brought forward at the meeting for which the original motion was presented, or at a following meeting, the next available meeting after that, so which hasn't occurred. So the next option would be to choose to move on, and just, not have any action with respect to the deputation, or council can choose to rescind or amend a motion that was previously adopted at the time. But this would require a 2/3 vote of council in order to make that decision. And this is due to the fact that the budget deliberations have already concluded and notice that the budget adoption was already posted. Since the budget was adopted by way of a series of motions, council could choose to amend or rescind any of the 13 motions where action has not been undertaken. This would require staff to undertake a comprehensive analysis of what has been acted on to date. And I don't know if there's any.
So I guess the question would be, if a member of council wanted to bring that forward, they'd bring it forward today, and it would be posted on our website, and it'd be discussed at the next meeting. Is that correct, or do we need a 2/3 vote today?
It would be a 2/3 vote to even consider opening up any of those motions, but the much of the action has already commenced. That's my understanding. So as far as bringing a motion forward to rescind or amend, it would be out of order if action has already been commenced with respect to those various motions.
So, Councillor Gordon,
I can make it easy. I can make it easy on you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not. I may be a lot of things, but delusional is not one of them. I have no fantasy that, no matter what I tabled like that tonight, that it was going to pass. And I'm not saying that negatively to my peers. It is what it is. So I guess maybe the takeaway for our deputants and the other people watching online who are concerned about this budget is that there's another budget, probably only 9 months away, and it will be the last budget before another election. So, and campaigning will begin in July, 6 months after that budget passes, or maybe not even. So why don't we, this is what it is. I think we're not going to beat this horse. I think everybody's heard quite clearly from, I know my big mouth, and certainly from a couple other councillors anyway, and the public, that they'd like us to do better. I think there's an opportunity to do that potentially in the next budget, which is going to hopefully start in the late fall, early winter. And you know what? I'm good. Like, I think everybody gets it, and let's leave it for the next budget. I know I'll be there champion what I can. And I know the rest of you will do what you believe is right, and we'll start all over again in a few months. So I'm not going to advance anything new tonight, but I do want, for the sake of the people watching and the deputies, to understand that, you know, I get it, and I believe the rest of you do too. I don't think any of their concerns were lost on any of you. So
I believe we do, and not that I need to defend council, but I think we did a great. You know, we did what we needed to do. We spent 3 full days. We went through line by line. I'm with you. I'm always the first one to want to save money and not increase taxes by any means. But we're a team. We work together. I think we did a very good job. Unfortunately, I apologize. I'm not here. I would never want to upset or offend any resident. But the fact, when you're asked, would you like a tax increase? I don't think there's anybody would ever say yes. Unfortunately, you know, we did our due diligence, and we did a great job. I know we're off topic. I apologize, Madam Clerk, and I want to echo Councillor Gordon. Very well said, and I greatly respect your comments. Thank you. So is there any other notice of motion? Councillor Main, I'll allow you to have the last comment, sir.
I apologize. Just as a quick note, comment on the budget matter, just to Councillor Gordon's point is there's a lot of sticker shock with budget. And sometimes they're hard to comprehend. Some of the numbers don't seem to match up with what they are. And so our public documents, the budget is a public document. So go through it and familiarize with it so that going into next round, you know, we have a little bit more understanding. Because every year it always happens that, you know, road reconstruction costs this, resurfacing costs that, and it seems astronomical, but those are the real prices. So it's a bit of an adjustment that we all have to make.
Thank you very much, Councillor Main. Any other notice of motion to bring forward this evening? I see Councillor Ocheski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for the brief interruption. This is actually a notice of motion.
Yes.
I was going to bring it up in announcements, but I will be bringing a notice of motion forward next council meeting. So this is a notice of motion.
Okay.
For backyard chickens, and so if any other councillors want to discuss backyard chickens, or any staff members have any discussions on backyard chickens, any members of the public, I'm still on the fence myself. There's a group on Facebook forming. They have over 100 members all of a sudden. So I just thought I would give everybody the benefit of the doubt of a few weeks notice. We'll be bringing it up next council meeting for the next council meeting. So we got lots of time to talk about it. It's certainly a creative topic and something other municipalities are doing. So let's talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other notice of the motion or notice of motion?
Can we do backyard geese?
You got me there. I need a second. I had a good joke for that, but we'll move on to announcements. Any announcements this evening? Councillor Main.
2 items. We got a lot of really good publicity and feedback from the community on joining the Bee City program. And so people are asking about how I can participate in the initiative. It's mostly a municipal program where we're looking at municipal lands, but if you take a look at the resources that they put together, pollinatorpartnership.ca is the organization that runs the Bee City that we've partnered with. And they have some great resources if you want to improve your home garden. They have resources for the Manitoulin Lake Simcoe eco region that we're in, about which plants are good pollinators. If you want to kind of add some wildlife to your yard. This week, the last phase of the reconstruction downtown has commenced. This is the most exciting part because it's all the trimmings, it's the greenery, it's the pavement. So we're really excited for the street trees. And if you want to support downtown Midland, again, downtownmidland.ca, which is the BIA business improvement organization, they list all the BIA members, their websites are there, their hours, how you can contact them, how you can support them. The BIA is not the entirety of the downtown, so if you have some personal support, personal care that businesses that you support on Midland Avenue or First Street, again, reach out to them and support them. Anything you can do to help the downtown is greatly appreciated. And as we know, supporting local is supporting your own community. So thank you again for that.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Any other announcements, Councillor Gordon? Then I have Councillor Strathern. Mayor Strathern.
This is more of a shout out for Mr. Campbell, who's probably lurking in the background there. I got it on good authority that our speed trailer, the long lamented speed trailer that's been the subject of many of my little pokes and prods over the the winter is actually deployed out on 4th on Councillor Main Street. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if it's just because that's one of our identified trouble zones, but I am very happy to see it out and deployed in the town. To the people driving by it, it's not meant to be a challenge to see how high you can get the number. Okay, but I'm looking forward to that evidence that it collects as we deploy it around places to form part of that forthcoming traffic calming report, the one that's going to be talking about speeds in the community. So I just wanted to throw it out there that it's there. I recognize that. And props to you and the team for getting it out. And I do hope to see that it's dragged around town collecting all that vital statistics. So thank you.
Well said. We're going to change the name of that trailer to the Gordon Speed Trailer. So one day anyway. I love it.
It just needs an upgrade where it actually mails you a ticket after.
Mayor Strather, then I have Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was invited to attend a change of command ceremony this evening in which the commander, Captain McKinnon of the 724 Midland Lions Air Cadets, and the commander of the Sea Cadets, the organization known as Trillium. For the life of me, can't remember her name. I had it on a piece of paper, which I've lost. I would like to say that the cadets are one of those organizations that seem to show up at just about everything. If you've got something happening at the Legion, they're there. If you've got something happening at the Cenotaph, they're there. It just seems to be everywhere, and it's developing character in people, leadership, self-awareness, and Captain McKinnon and her colleague at the Sea Cadets have done a wonderful job in putting their time forward to do this. And I would just like to, on behalf of council, if I may, and certainly on behalf of the community, say thank you for that. And Godspeed in whatever it is that you're choosing to do in your next posting. I'd also like to thank a mystery person who dropped this, and I don't know whether you can actually make it out or not. It's a hand drawing a balloon, and it was done by a person named Alexandra Stadler, who wanted to know what I thought of the picture, and I just have to say that it's marvelous. Alexandra, thank you very much. I'll put it up in a place in my office, and you'll see it hanging there anytime you go by. So thanks for that. And finally, I just wanted to say that Dr. Rose, who's does the health series at the Cultural Center, asked me to let people know, it may be very apropos given what Premier Fort said today, that there's a presentation called Mental Health and Addictions in Time of COVID. We all might need a little help after this 28 days, and it encourages us to tune in on a Thursday, May the 6th. It's presented live at 7 p.m. and it's on Rogers Cable TV. And then it's available in subsequently for rebroadcast. So I just want to shout that out for anybody who's feeling a little put upon right now by COVID. Tune in. I'm sure there'll be some great advice. I know the series offers up great advice. So that's again, Thursday, May the 6th at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you. Yes, I just had a couple of items I wanted to mention. For the Midland Seniors Council actually posted this, that Community Reach, which is a charitable organization in our area, offers rides to people who don't have access to transportation or they need accessible transportation. And if you're a senior and you need a ride for your vaccine, if you have a vaccine appointment at either the Midland or Penetanguishene site and you need a ride, you can give them a call. There is a small fee, but you can get there and get your vaccine. As well, I wanted to mention that if you go to our Cultural Alliance website, you will find that there are a few things happening. There is a video training on how to create video for the creative community, which is a free presentation being put on through the Cultural Alliance. And our Cultural Alliance YouTube channel is also collecting some ways to experience culture, even though it is during the lockdown. if you do have a great YouTube video that you know of somebody local, I saw a beautiful one of a young girl who wrote a song and performed it on her ukulele that should be going up soon, a local girl. Share those with Karen Mealing because she is compiling them on our Cultural Alliance YouTube channel, and just a little way to enjoy some of the things that are still happening in these weird circumstances.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cunningham. Any other announcements? I had two, if I could. First of all, I wanted to pass along my condolences to the Jody Grimshaw family. Anybody who's been in town for a while remembers the Fisher Hair Yard on the main street. I believe Mr. Grimshaw started his career there and has been a Midland icon for many years. And my condolences go out to the family of the Grimshaw. Very, very, very sad. And secondly, on the hair front, Midland lost an icon of a business in our downtown, Spiker Hair Yard or Spiker Barbershop. After 100 years on our main street, decided to retire. There's a new company going in there, but it truly is an end of an era, and we'll definitely miss. I remember when I first got on council, Deputy Mayor Cramp told me, do yourself a favor, go down and get your hair cut at Spikers at least once a month if you want to know what's going on in Midland. And he was 100% true. You could hear about any leaf talk, and you would definitely hear about what's going on in the town of Midland. And it was probably one of the greatest recommendations or things that I was ever given as a councillor. And I would do myself, go down on probably once every 6 weeks on a Saturday and pop in and start off talking about the Leafs and end up talking about what's wrong in the town of Midland. And it was always a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And it's, a business after 100 years in Midland truly is amazing. So I wish the Spikers a very well and a happy retirement. And we'll move on to last but not least, we have a notice of motion moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Chesky, that the committee of the whole rise and report. All those in favor? On to you, your worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Next, we have a motion to adopt the actions of the Committee of the Whole, moved by Councillor Main, second by Councillor Donner, that the recommendations of the Committee of the Whole, the meeting of April 7th, 2021, be adopted as resolutions of Council. Comments or questions from Council on this matter? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, that carries. Next, we have there are no motions for which notice was given. Under bylaws, we have a confirmatory bylaw moved by Councillor Pro, seconded by Councillor Gordon, that the bylaw 2021-15, being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of the regular council meeting held April 7th, 2021, be passed and enacted. All those in favor? Thank you, that also carries. Of course, the motion of the evening, moved by Councillor Shefsky, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ross, that this regular meeting of council adjourn at 9:33 p.m. All those in favor? Thank you. Just a word, if I could, to those folks who are now very interested in following the budget. We will make sure that you understand when things are happening in the budget process, and we really look forward to your participation and your questions. Have a great evening, and remember, stay home. By the way, people at 60 years of age and up are now eligible through the Simcoe Muskoka Health. But I think they're booked for this tranche now, but put your name in anyway. Vaccinated, then we can all go out and sit down on the patio somewhere, have a good time. Yeah, exactly. Have a great evening.
Be safe, everyone.
Be safe, stay well.